Hello, friends. Welcome to the first module of Reading and Reflecting on Text. Before starting the first topic, let me introduce you about the subject. Language is a complex, specialized skill which develops in the child spontaneously without conscious effort or formal instructions. Language is a means of communicating thoughts. A society is not existed without the language. Language expresses our feelings, thoughts, reactions, etc. Reading is also one of the essential skills of language learning. Reading is a complex cognitive process of decoding symbols in order to construct or derive meaning. Reading is a means of language acquisition, communication, and of sharing information and ideas. Process requires continuous practice, development, and refinement. The ability to help students actively engage and think along with the text is one of the main challenges that teachers face in their classrooms. Reading and reflecting on text is a course designed for B.Ed students to help them better understand the nuances of reading. It aims at helping students learn strategies that can make them engaging readers. It is expected that this course will surely help teachers, pupil teachers, and readers to understand the various aspects of reading documents and texts. So let's start with the first topic, general principles of language learning. Language is not a subject of factual information or a storehouse of contents, but a skill. Hence, its teaching requires a different treatment and different method of approach. A good teacher is always keen to adopt the new ways of teaching so that he may get satisfaction in teaching. He works on new principles and innovations for the teaching. The knowledge and applications of principles help the teacher to teach effectively. We have to keep before us certain principles for its effective teaching, and these principles are as follows. Principle of natural way of learning. No language can exist in vacuum. There is need for proper environment to learn and teach a language. In case of the mother tongue learning, generally a natural environment is available. It is easy to learn because it is spoken in the family and even in the neighborhood, but the same is not true of a foreign language. It becomes the duty of the teacher to create a proper atmosphere for the learner, to begin with the development of proper speech habits with due emphasis on correctness of pronunciation, stress, rhythm, intonation is needed. Listening and speaking should precede reading and writing. In the beginning, more emphasis on the aspects of listening and speaking is needed. Principle of learning by doing. Language is focused to develop four essential skills like listening, speaking, reading, and writing. A child learns effectively by doing. He learns the language by model reading, imitation, silent reading, writing dictations, and spellings, which is essential. Principle of imitation. Learning of any language is based on imitation, since it is but natural for human being. In fact, imitation is the key to language learning. Good speech is the result of imitating good models of speech. It includes sentence pattern of the sentences, sound utterances, and intonation of voice. The teacher is expected to become a good model or use good devices for the benefits of the students. Principle of vocabulary. One objective of teaching a language is to increase the vocabulary of students. There are two kinds of vocabulary. One is passive vocabulary and another one is active vocabulary. The words which are recognized and understood but never used in speaking and writing formulate passive vocabulary, and the words which are understood and constantly used by the learner in speaking and writing form active vocabulary. A fruitful learning is one in which recognized and understood words are used as active vocabulary. It means words of passive vocabulary should be used as active ones. The teacher should try to use familiar words in the class. Principle of habit formation. Language is essentially a habit forming process, a process during which we acquire new habits. An attempt should be made to form habits in the students for learning a language by the following process: habit of listening to and distinguishing between sounds, habit of speaking with proper intonation and accent, habit of reading newspapers, magazines, and storybooks, habit of silent reading, habit of going to library, habit of reading aloud with exact articulation, habit of consulting a dictionary, habit of using correct grammar, habit of imitation, habit of spelling, habit of using words in their proper context, habit of repeating, and habit of correct pronunciation. Principle of inspirational motive. Language teaching should be based on inspirational motive. The inspiration should lead the learner to learn more with the zeal of an internal urge. Language teaching should also be based on similar inspirational motive. The teacher and the pupil should consider language link as a source of inspiration for life. Teachers should try to build their students for intrinsic motivation. They should encourage students to consider rewards that comes from within themselves. Principle of selection. Selection of the material is the first essential aspect of teaching. Language learning can take place in a number of ways. It is wise for the teacher to use a variety of teaching approaches but within certain parameters. The selection of language items can be based on the frequency of the language, range of applicability, coverage, available aspect, teach ability, and the learning ability. Principle of gradation. Gradation means simplifying the matter. The idea behind the principles of gradation is to simplify the matter to such an extent that language learning becomes easier. It can be done on the basis of principle of grouping, principle of sequencing, grammatical sequence, lexical sequence, and semantic sequence. Principle of practice. Practice makes a man perfect, and the perfection in the language comes only by the practice. The development of expression, grammar, vocabulary, pronunciation is based on practice, which should be continuous. It needs a lot of practice to know the rules deeply and in direct proportion. Principle of purpose. Everything in the world has its purpose. Language, like English, is also learned for the purposes like social, scientific, academic, and literary. A good teacher tells the students how effectively we can use the language in personal and professional life both. A purposeless aspect of anything cannot be effective and fruitful to the learner. Principle of balanced approach. Different aspects of language should be taken care of. Each aspect has its own importance. Emphasis on one topic alone is not enough. There should be proper coordination in teaching and learning different aspects. If a teacher is giving information about prose, she must take grammar aspects side by side. If she is teaching poetry, she must inform the students about similes, metaphors, and other grammatical aspects also. If she is discussing something on written composition, she must give importance to oral composition also. Principle of correlation with life. While teaching the subject, matter should be related to life, customs, traditions, peculiarities, and characteristics of the particular society to which the students belong. In this way, teaching can be more meaningful and learning can be transferred to real life situations. Principle of accuracy. If someone is habitual of the wrong habits, it becomes difficult to give up all. Wrong habits in pronunciations, spellings, and writings become difficult to get rid of. Language habit should be accurate to learn a foreign language quickly. One must try to imitate the best forms of structures. Principle of oral approach. Speaking a language leads to reading and writing. First of all, child learns speaking after listening the language. Thereafter, he comes to reading and writing. It is real and important to make the learning easy and convenient. Teacher provides a situation to the students where he talks or speaks rather than listens only. Oral approach makes the learner active, attentive, and confident among students. Speaking accurately will enable the pupil to express properly and present their ideas and experiences attentively. Oral approach helps the learner to learn correct language aspects. Principle of proper order. A language aims at the development of all the four skills listening, speaking, reading, and writing. There should be proper order to learn a language. That is, first the students listen, then speak, third they read, and at last they write the language. So there should be proper order in learning a language. Principle of mutuality. A language is fruitful if there is mutual bond between the teacher and the learner. Both are essential in teaching learning process. The students must be cooperative to accept the matter wholeheartedly while learning the language. He must be ready to practice and use the foreign language as the teacher must be ready to provide the new language. So, these are various principles of language teaching. If the teacher wants to teach successfully in the class, he must follow these principles in teaching.